What is up, guys? Renekton here, and today we're going to be talking about divers. I know this video has been a very long time coming, and I truly apologize for it taking so long to come out with this video. However, I think the delay is going to be well worth it, because in this video we're going to showcase a new format that is more streamlined and designed to give you the maximum amount of information possible and the minimum amount of time. This video is a follow-up of my how to find your ideal playstyle, class, and subclass video, so if you haven't watched that one yet, I highly recommend it because it breaks down all of the champions into their classes and subclasses and shows you how you can find out which subclass is best for you. If you have watched that video, then you're probably watching this video because you're interested in learning about divers. And this video will be covering Hecarim, Rek'Sai, Renekton, and Rengar. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about what defines divers, and then we'll go into what makes Hecarim, Rek'Sai, Renekton, and Rengar unique within the diver class. That is the focus of the video. What makes each of these champions unique within the diver class. I won't be going into tons of detail on champion abilities or item builds. Those types of information are more well suited for champion specific videos, so if you're really interested in any one of these champions, let me know and I'll either make a champion specific video on that champion or I'll try to point you in the direction of someone who has already made a good video for that champion. The purpose of this video is to help you figure out if one of these 4 champions is a champion that you want to devote a lot of time playing to. Before we do all of that, though, I want to give a very special thank you to all of the diver mains who helped me with this video. As you can see on the screen, I had a lot of help. Most of the in-game footage you see in this video was provided to me by other YouTubers and streamers, so please check them out. I've left a link to all of their channels and streams in the video description below. Divers at their core are jack of all trades. They have damage, they have tankiness, they have crowd control, and they have mobility. The true strength of divers is that they are extremely versatile and they can adapt their build for whatever their team needs or for whatever best counters the enemy team. A diver can build full damage and have assassin-like burst damage, or they can build full tank and have vanguard-like tankiness. However, divers lack the escapes of true assassins or the AoE damage and crowd control of vanguards. All divers have strong forms of engage mobility, strong single target damage, and at least one form of hard crowd control. Divers are separated by what type of toughness they have and how reliant they are on their abilities. On the left, we have the mitigation divers, the divers who get shields or bonuses to resistances, and on the right, we have the sustain divers, the divers who gain healing from their auto attacks or their abilities. On the top, we have the divers who are more based on combos, meaning they tend to use all of their abilities rapid fire to deal as much burst damage as possible. On the bottom, we have the divers who are more based on their attacks, meaning that they tend to weave in auto attacks between their abilities, or they have attack speed steroids built into their kit. Today we'll be focusing on the champions in the upper right hand corner, the combo divers with sustain. These divers are extremely strong when ahead, having question mark pinging levels of burst damage when they're fed. These divers also have decent amounts of sustain as well, making them either strong lane bullies or healthy clear junglers. These divers are Hecarim, Rek'Sai, Renekton, and Rengar. Hecarim and Rek'Sai are most commonly played in the jungle. Rengar is also commonly played in the jungle, but he can also be played in top lane. Renekton is almost exclusively played in top lane.
Behold the might of the Shadow Isles.
Hecarim, the Shadow of War. In life, Hecarim was a ruthless knight who left his own knight commander to die on the battlefield. When his king descended into madness, Hecarim used his king to slay hundreds of innocents in the king's name. Hecarim delighted in carnage, war, and suffering. When Kalista refused her king's order to slay the mystics of the Blessed Isle, Hecarim murdered her by stabbing her in the back with his spear. The king's madness drove him to releasing massive amounts of dark magic across the Blessed Isles, killing everyone and turning the Blessed Isles into the Shadow Isles. Hecarim was consumed by the dark magics released during the unholy ritual, fusing him and his mighty steed together in a monstrous abomination that reflected the true darkness of his soul. He had become the Shadow of War. Hecarim is an extremely oppressive jungler when he is ahead, but struggles greatly when he's behind. The only champions that can match the speed of his ganks are Rammus and Warwick, but Hecarim has much higher burst potential than those two champions, even if he only builds one offensive item. Hecarim is one of the best junglers in the game at catching out-of-position carries. Hecarim's insane movement speed allows him to flank in extremely unique ways to knock enemy carries back into your team and then fear the rest of the enemy team so they can't assist their helpless ally. Hecarim excels in catch compositions which make optimal use of Hecarim's speed, burst damage, and crowd control. Hecarim can also be quite useful in attack compositions with his W and his ultimate, though since Hecarim typically builds Trinity Force early, it typically takes him longer to become tanky enough to survive in team fights. Hecarim can also use his E on towers, making him very good at scaring enemies away from their towers by threatening a dive, and then destroying the tower with the bonus damage from his E. There are a couple tricks to Hecarim that are not commonly known. The first is that when Hecarim activates his W, he heals for 30% of all damage dealt to enemies, not just the damage that he deals. This allows Hecarim to be deceptively tanky in team fights if he activates his W at the right time. The second trick is that Hecarim is unstoppable when he's using his ultimate. This means that during his ultimate, Hecarim is immune to displacement effects like knockups, and all other forms of crowd control don't affect him until after his charge is complete. Proper timing of Hecarim's ultimate can not only fear the entire enemy team, but it can negate some of that team's most potent crowd control. Hecarim is extremely reliant on blue buff for his clears, especially in the early game, so don't expect a blue buff to be donated to you if you're the mid laner. Furthermore, if the enemy jungler is a Hecarim, stealing his blue buff is extremely detrimental, so coordinate with your laners to invade his blue buff whenever possible. Hecarim is a jungler who needs a lot of gold to be effective, so it's extremely important that you're efficient with your clears and that you focus on high kill potential ganks. Ideally with Hecarim, you want to come in from behind the enemy and use your E to knock the enemy backwards into your allies. If an enemy flashes after getting knocked back, you can follow with your ultimate, and if you land behind them with your ultimate, you will fear them back into your team, which can be a massive tilter for enemies. Anything that gives Hecarim move speed and either tankiness or AD is usually a good buy. Ghost is a very common summoner spell, and Predator is his most common keystone rune. Sheen items synergize extremely well with Hecarim's kit, with Trinity Force being the most common item built on Hecarim. All told, Hecarim is an extremely fun jungler if you have good pathing and you can use his insane movement speed to get yourself an early lead. Rek'Sai, the Void Burrower. Rek'Sai is the largest and fiercest of the Xerxai, a race of merciless apex predators that tunnel through the earth to ambush and devour prey. A creature of the void, Rek'Sai is the size of an elephant with a near impenetrable carapace. No one knows how she came to inhabit the sands of the Shuriman Desert, but so great is her legend that merchants, traders, and armed caravans will go hundreds of miles out of their way to avoid her and her progeny. Possessing uncanny hearing and smell, as well as the ability to sense vibrations through the earth, there is no escaping Rek'Sai once she detects you. She can tunnel through solid stone faster than most men can run, and her hunger is insatiable. She is death from below the sand. Rek'Sai is another jungler with an extremely strong early and mid game. Her Q and her E allow her to clear camps extremely quickly, while her health regeneration while burrowed allows her to stay healthy throughout the jungle. One of the most unique things about Rek'Sai are her tunnels, which speed up her jungle clears even more and allow her to quickly move about the map. Elite Rek'Sais are masters of their tunnel placements, allowing them to stay ahead of the enemy jungler and rotate to objectives much quicker than their counterparts. Rek'Sai's damage is extremely strong once she hits level 3, and her Tremor Sense allows her to find the enemy jungler and engage in favorable trades. Rek'Sai's Tremor Sense is also great at spotting out ganks and roams, allowing Rek'Sai to counter gank when the enemy overextends for a kill. Rek'Sai's ganks are also extremely strong in the early and mid game since she can tunnel over walls from unexpected angles, and her knockup combined with her damage from her Q and her E can rip through squishies before they have a chance to react. Once Rek'Sai gains level 6, her killing power becomes amplified through her ultimate, which deals bonus damage equal to a percentage of the champion's missing health. Another extremely important aspect of Rek'Sai's ultimate is that it renders her untargetable for 1.5 seconds. Rek'Sai can use her ultimate to dodge an enemy's most potent crowd control or damaging spells, and then leap at them to finish them off. The best Rek'Sais are masters at baiting enemies into blowing their crowd control on Rek'Sai and timing their ultimate perfectly to dodge the crowd control and still get the kill. Another important aspect of Rek'Sai's kit is you always want to save your E until you're at max fury. At max fury, Rek'Sai's E damage is doubled and is converted to true damage. You pretty much never want to use her E unless you're at max fury. While Rek'Sai's Tremor Sense is extremely powerful, it can only detect you if you're moving. Stand still and her Tremor Sense won't go off, allowing you to bait her into thinking that no one is there. If you're playing against a Rek'Sai, always keep your finger on the S key so you can issue a stop command and foil her Tremor Sense. Another important thing to know about Rek'Sai is the damage from her ultimate can be dodged with a well-timed flash or dash, allowing you to turn the tide of a battle just when Rek'Sai thinks you're going to be her next meal. While Rek'Sai is extremely strong in the early and mid game, she tends to fall off towards the late game. In the late game, Rek'Sai is all about how she manages her tunnels and her ultimate. At max rank, Rek'Sai can reuse her tunnel after 2 seconds, which allows Rek'Sai to tunnel in, get a knockup and damage on a key target, and then tunnel back out if the enemy team tries to focus her. Expert Rek'Sai players can feel extremely elusive in the late game, since she can reposition extremely quickly if she's prepped the battlefield with her tunnels. Rek'Sai's tunnels and Tremor Sense make her one of the most unique junglers in the game. She has an extremely high skill cap and is always regarded as a viable pick in the highest of elos. Oh, and she also has some of the best voice lines in the game.
Light meat, dark meat, it's all the same.
Renekton, the Butcher of the Sands. Renekton, the brother of Nasus, was a legendary Shuriman warrior who never lost a battle. So great was his legend that armies would surrender before the battle even started if they heard that Renekton was leading the Shuriman forces. Though he was a legend, Renekton selflessly sacrificed himself to save his brother Nasus. However, instead of dying, Renekton was lifted up and remade into an Ascended. Shurima saw unparalleled prosperity with Nasus and Renekton leading them, until Xerath betrayed Azir and was turned into unbridled magical energy. Nasus and Renekton battled Xerath, but were not able to match his magical might. Knowing that the battle was unwinnable, Renekton wrestled him into the depthless tomb of the Emperors, and bade his brother to seal them inside forever. Seeing no other way, Nasus reluctantly obeyed his brother's order and sealed the tomb. Renekton and Xerath battled for centuries in the darkness. When it became apparent that neither could best the other, Xerath turned to psychological warfare, slowly corrupting Renekton's mind. Now free, Renekton has lost all semblance of his humanity, giving in to the beast and his ravenous hunger for blood and vengeance. Renekton is one of those champions that is easy to pick up, but you can spend thousands of games mastering. He's one of the strongest lane bullies in the game, and is notorious for solo killing enemies or even 1v2ing when he's ahead. Surprisingly, Renekton actually has a relatively weak level 1 and level 2. However, once Renekton hits level 3 and he starts maxing out his fury, he can really start taking over the lane. Renekton has amazing sustain and is one of the only champions in the game with a point-and-click stun. Renekton also has a double dash, which allows him to engage from a scary long distance away, or easily escape from ganks when the enemy jungler comes. And since Renekton is fury-based rather than mana-based, he can pretty much stay in lane indefinitely if played correctly. Fury management is extremely important with Renekton. When Renekton is above 50 Fury, his next ability will be empowered, but will consume 50 Fury. Empowering the correct ability is essential with Renekton. Typically, you want to empower your W when you're dueling enemies. Not only does it deal an additional 50% damage, but it also doubles Renekton's stun from 0.75 seconds to 1.5 seconds. While laning and trading, using empowered Q can also be extremely useful, since empowered Q deals additional damage and triples the healing that Renekton receives from the ability. In general, you don't want to waste your Fury on your empowered E except in certain situations when facing high armor targets, or if you really need that double dash to close the distance against the enemy. At level 3, Renekton has extremely high kill pressure, especially if he's near max Fury and he has Ignite. At level 6 though is when Renekton really becomes terrifying. Renekton's ultimate gives him bonus health, bonus range, extra fury, and causes him to deal magic damage to all enemies around him every half second, and gain additional fury every second. When used properly, a Renekton with ultimate can 1v2 the enemy top laner and jungler, even if Renekton isn't fed. Renekton is scary to deal with in the early game, and is absolutely fucking terrifying in the mid game. He's able to easily freeze waves and deny enemy gold and experience, and he's also equally capable of tower diving to deny you even more gold and experience once the freeze is broken. When Renekton tends to struggle though is the late game. While he can be an extremely strong split pusher with insane wave clear, he tends not to scale as well as other split pushers. With Renekton, you have to have a lead to split push effectively. If you're on equal golden levels, then a better scaling top laner will outduel you in the late game. Renekton is also a decent team fighter, but not as good as some other divers. Renekton is usually extremely reliant on landing a flash W in a team fight, and his team fight presence is severely reduced if he doesn't have flash up. Renekton also struggles to keep his fury high prior to team fights, making him less effective once he engages into a fight. All told though, Renekton is one of the scariest top laners in the game. Not only is he extremely easy to pick up, but he has an extremely high skill ceiling and is immensely fun to play.
Focus.
Rengar, the Pride Stalker. Rengar was born to a tribe of East Shurimian Vestaya known as the Kilash, whose society venerated the honor and glory of the hunt. Rengar was born the runt of the litter to the tribe's chief, and due to his diminutive size was outcast from the tribe. The tribe believed that Rengar would die in the wilds, but instead Rengar became one of the fiercest hunters in existence, having survived on nothing but his wit, his will, and his savagery for most of his life. Rengar returned to his tribe covered in trophies. The most fearsome beasts of Shurima had all fallen to Rengar's blade. However, his father was not impressed. His father told him that only after Rengar had slayed Kha'Zix, the mythical Void Hunter, that Rengar would be welcomed back to the tribe. Rengar spent many months hunting Kha'Zix, but ultimately it was Kha'Zix who got the drop on Rengar, ripping out Rengar's eye before disappearing. Rengar returned to his tribe to be chastised by his father. It was at this moment that Rengar realized that his father hadn't slain anything in decades. He was soft and weak. In a flash, Rengar gutted him from neck to belly. Rengar didn't need his father's acceptance, or his tribe's. He had outgrown them. All that mattered was the hunt. Rengar is a diver that is normally played glass cannon, having burst damage that rivals assassins. There are two mechanics that make Rengar unique from every other champion in the game: his passive Unseen Predator and his Ferocity combat system. Rengar's passive allows him to leap 600 range when he's in a bush or when he's camouflaged by his ultimate. When at 0 ferocity, leaping will also generate 1 ferocity for Rengar. Rengar's leap mechanic is defining for him as a champion because it gives him incredible mobility when he's near bushes. A lot of Rengar's skill cap comes from dancing into bushes and leaping out to combo an enemy, and then slipping back into the bush to drop vision and give your abilities time to come off cooldown again. The other key part of Rengar is ferocity management. Rengar gains 1 ferocity whenever he casts an ability, and when he reaches 4 ferocity, the next ability he uses is empowered and grants him bonus movement speed. When Rengar reaches 4 ferocity, he can use any of his abilities for an empowered ability, even if that ability is on cooldown. This gives Rengar a lot of flexibility once he reaches max ferocity, since each ability has its own strengths when empowered. His empowered Q deals bonus damage and gives Rengar increased attack speed, making it ideal for bursting down a target. His empowered W does increased AoE damage and cleanses Rengar of all crowd control, making it very useful in team fighting situations. And his empowered E does increased damage and roots the target for 1.75 seconds, making it ideal for locking down fleeing enemies. Rengar is extremely powerful in the early and mid game and is amazing at snowballing games. He gains additional bonus attack damage for each unique enemy champion he kills, so ideally once you have an advantage, you want to take that advantage to other lanes. This is primarily done through Rengar's ultimate, which gives him movement speed and camouflage, allowing him to leap onto an enemy once they have overcommitted for a fight. While Rengar is extremely powerful, he's extremely reliant on bushes and his ultimate. Rengar struggles to be effective if he doesn't have bushes within leaping range of his enemies, making ganking with Rengar difficult before level 6. This is why a lot of people prefer to play Rengar in top lane, where he can make better use of his lane bushes. If you're playing Rengar in the jungle, it's often best to use him as a counter ganker before level 6, tracking the enemy jungler movements and wait for them to walk into a bush that they feel is safe. Rengar is an extremely snowbally champion, and if he doesn't get ahead, he struggles to be useful. Rengar is mainly about one-shotting enemies, and if he can't do that, then things become very difficult for him. That said, a fed Rengar can completely take over the game, because the enemy can never approach a bush unless they are in a group, making the enemy jungler fearful for clearing his own jungle, and enemy laners fearful to push out any of their lanes. And that's all the champions we're going to be covering with this video. Let me know in the comments what you love or hate about these divers and which champions or subclasses you want me to cover next. If you enjoyed this video, especially with all the new in-game footage, please hit that like button. This video took a lot of work on my part, and I also had a lot of help from diver mains. As you can see on the screen, I had 16 diver mains help me with this video. A few of these people have YouTube channels or Twitch streams, and I've linked all of them in the video description below. Please check them out and show your support of me by help supporting them as well. Also, if you're interested in any of these divers, please check out the subreddits for each of these champions. There's tons of helpful people there who can help answer all of your questions far better than I can. I know this video has been a long time coming, and I appreciate all of you for being patient and continuing to support me. If you would like to see me come out with these videos quicker, I could really use some help with in-game clips. We'll be continuing this series with the rest of the diver champions, but I'm actively looking for clips for all other classes. If you have a YouTube channel or a Twitch stream and you want your clips to be featured in my videos, please let me know by leaving a comment or sending me a private message. If you're interested in helping out in future videos, or you're curious what videos I'm planning on doing next, please check out our Discord. There's a ton of helpful people there, and it's the best place to ask me questions, provide suggestions for the channel, discuss esports, or even find a couple people to play a game with. Link to our Discord is in the video description below. Also, please let me know what you think about the new format by leaving a comment below or chatting me up in Discord. And if you made it this far in the video and you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all of my videos. I hope you all have a fantastic day. This is Randomonium, signing off.